Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome into another very exciting Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants broadcast. Many of you are really familiar faces that have joined us like 30, 40 times this year, which is awesome. But if you are new to us, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world. And we are in our home stretch. Happy Friday, everybody. Happy morning. Good way to start the day. We've got, I think, 25 or 30 more programs in the next few weeks to wrap up the school year. This one, like all of them, is going to be on our YouTube channel. So if you want to check it out in 3 weeks or 3 years, you can head there and do just that. And I'm really excited of all days you're joining us today, because today we are talking about the animal of which I've had the coolest experience in my entire life personally with. Now, I was in East Africa, in Tanzania. Sateesh is joining us today from Sri Lanka. But if you get the chance to see an elephant in the wild, even in a zoo, if you have an amazing one near you, they are some of the most incredible things ever to walk this planet. And so today, Sateesh, who is one of the most enthused people I've ever run across, is going to tell you a little bit about his story, a little bit about his work with elephants, and how to think like an elephant. They are some of the most intelligent animals on planet Earth. There's a reason so many of you are so interested from around the world. So stay tuned, buckle up for a really cool broadcast. We are going to have a Kahoot in the middle that I'm going to be building throughout the talk. So if you want to pull up kahoot.it on a separate tab, I'll get you the code as soon as I can, and we'll have a little game in the middle. But without further ado, joining us from Colombo in Sri Lanka, the capital, thank you so much for joining us, Sateesh, and welcome to the broadcast, man.
Hello, great to see everybody. Excited to talk to you guys about elephants, and it's amazing to see so many of you guys around from all the way from up north, all the way down south, and hopefully you guys can look up Sri Lanka and find out where it is. And if you ever get a chance to come here, it's a beautiful country. You can see most of it really quickly. All right, so I'll start off with the presentation.
Yeah, you're perfect, man. Let's do it.
All right. So, hi, my name is Sateesh Venkatesh. I'm an elephant ecologist, and I'm currently researching elephants right now in Sri Lanka as a National Geographic Fulbright Scholar. So, what I'm going to talk to you today about is how to think like an elephant, or at least how best we as humans can think like an elephant. And I also want to talk to you a little bit about how understanding how to think like an elephant can help us save elephants from extinction, and also help us maybe live alongside them as well. So first off, I know you guys have had a whole bunch of elephant talks. Maybe you've seen some other ones on here. I know there's some really great ones from Dominic Goncalves about African elephants, but today we're going to talk about Asian elephants. So over here you can see there is an African elephant on the left-hand side of your screen, and an Asian elephant on the right-hand side of the screen. So today we're going to be focusing on the Asian elephant. A little bit about Asian elephants first. So Asian elephants are found in 13 countries throughout Asia. There's only about 40 to 50,000 of these elephants in the wild. That's unlike African elephants, where there's almost about 400,000 African elephants. Most of these Asian elephants live within Sri Lanka and in India. So about 60% of Asian elephants live in these two countries. The other ones are scattered throughout the rest of Asia. If you take a look at the map, the dark red is where Asian elephants currently live. The lighter red is where Asian elephants used to live. So their habitat and where they live has shrunk drastically in more recent times. And that's also resulted in the decrease in elephant population as well. Their current range is about 480,000 square kilometers, which, to give you an idea, is about the same size as a little bit bigger than California. So when we're talking about Asian elephants, we have to realize that they're living in some of the areas with the most people. So we know that elephants take up a lot of space, but people take up a lot of space too. As I said, most of the elephants are living in India and Sri Lanka, at least the Asian elephants. And both India and Sri Lanka both have very high populations of people. So India has the highest population of people in the world. They also have the largest number of elephants. About half of the total Asian elephants live in India. And then Sri Lanka, which is a small country, you can see it at the bottom of India there. Sri Lanka actually has the highest density of Asian elephants. So they do have quite a large population, but because it's such a small country, the population is actually the density is much higher there. So what does this mean for humans and elephants? Well, it means that in Asia, humans and elephants run into each other very often. And when they do run into each other, they don't always get along. This leads to one of the biggest problems facing human-elephant conflict. This is typically found, the most common way, human-elephant conflict at least, is when elephants leave protected areas and they enter into human fields or farmers' fields and eat their crops. So you can see here in this video, we've got an elephant in Thailand. This is another one of our sites that I work at, and it's eating pineapple from one of the farmers' fields. So this can be a big problem, and it's one of the reasons be a big problem is because an elephant can eat pretty much an entire farmer's crop, basically their livelihood for that entire year maybe, or at least that season, and they can eat it all in one night. So here we have a whole herd of elephants kind of moving through rice paddy field here. And this can be really detrimental to farmers which don't have a lot of money, or they might not have a lot of resources to kind of withstand these elephants. And this can cause a lot of tension. So if elephants are potentially eating all of their food every night, this can cause a lot of animosity towards elephants from people. And then that can cause aggression both from people, and then in response to that, sometimes elephants have aggression back towards people as well. So this, in Asia at least, this can sometimes result in both deaths of humans and elephants when that conflict gets really high. So, but we can't really blame elephants for this because they're just looking for the best food that they can find. They eat a lot of food, they need a lot of food to sustain themselves, and they have to find the best food to maintain themselves. And we just happen to grow where that best food is. We just happen to grow that best food. We grow food that's easy for us to eat, and it's easy to digest, and it tastes good. And that also applies for elephants. They also find our food very tasty and really easy to eat. So they're willing to take the risk of leaving protected areas and entering into human areas in order to eat that food. We also have to remember that this landscape that elephants live on has changed quite a lot. So for some elephants, they can live up to about 65 years old. That landscape has changed a lot in their lifetime. So when they used to leave the national park, maybe they were entering into a forested area. That forest area now is occupied by humans, maybe humans growing really good food. So elephants are taking advantage of that. You have to think over 65 years, their landscape is going to change a lot. I'm sure even in your lifetime, the world around you has changed. If you think about how much the world can change in the next 50 years as well, that's basically what elephants are dealing with. So the question is, how can we coexist? How can we live together? And how can we basically understand each other? So one of the best ways to understand each other and coexist is by understanding like how we think. So one of the things I want to talk to you about is thinking about your friends. So if you think about your friends, you probably get along pretty well. And one reason you probably get along so well is because you understand each other. You know what your friend likes, you know what your friends dislike, you know what your friend's afraid of, you know what their guilty pleasures are. For me, mine, I'm afraid of heights, and I love pizza. So when we're talking about living with elephants or getting along with elephants, it's essential to know a little bit more about them and understand them. Now, elephants are pretty different from us, so we have to think of different ways about how they think and how we can understand them. So when we think about elephants, what do you first think of? Usually think they're big, they've got huge ears, they've got this kind of wild trunk there, and you may think about how really smart they are or how really social they are. I'm going to focus in on just two of those things because we only have a limited amount of time and there's a lot to talk about elephants. I'm going to talk about their ears and their trunks, or at least their sense of hearing and their sense of smell, because this goes into a lot of how elephants think. So the first one I'm going to talk about is smell. So how good is their smell? Elephants are thought to have one of the best senses of smell of any mammals. They have about 2,000 gene receptors that are used to smell. This is compared to dogs, which have only about 1,000, and humans, which have about less than 400. So elephants comparably have much higher ability to smell than we do. So what does this tell us about how the elephant sees the world around us? How the elephant sees the world around them? Likely this means they use their trunks to smell and understand and maybe navigate the world around them. They use it to see who's friends, who's enemies, and they use it to find food. Maybe see what tastes good, what doesn't taste good. And they can even use it sort of to see into the past. So if an elephant's passing through an area, they might see or smell another individual. They're able to see if that individual that passed by previously is a friend or an enemy, maybe which way they're going. And also maybe they're able to kind of estimate about how far away that individual is now. So the sense of smell really benefits elephants in terms of finding their way around the world. So how can this help us kind of coexist with elephants? Well, we can kind of think of kind of different strategies based on smell on how to kind of protect ourselves from elephants or live with them. There's two types here. The left one is an example from Kenya of a chili fence. So we know elephants don't like chili, and people have put up chili fences in order to deter elephants. Another way is through alternative crops. So if we have farmers that are living right next to national parks, they're growing things that elephants really like, which is tempting elephants to come eat it. One of our suggestions, which is what we're doing right now here in Sri Lanka, is working with local farmers and having ones closest to the national park grow alternative crops, basically crops that elephants don't like. So when elephants are smelling around for something good, they'll smell things that they're just not interested in or that they dislike. And this is a way we can understand this is a way understanding how elephants think can really benefit us in living with or coexisting with elephants. So the next one I want to talk about is hearing. So how good is an elephant's hearing? They have really good hearing. They can hear really, really low levels, below where humans can hear, about 14 to 16 kilohertz. And some of these low sounds that elephants hear and elephants make can actually travel through the ground over long distances, and elephants can kind of pick them up through their feet. This is more likely in Africa, where elephants kind of live on large plains and there's kind of large open areas. But in Asia as well, elephants probably use some of these low frequency sounds as well. They can also hear as high as about 12,000 hertz as well, which is around the same level as humans. They also have these huge ears. That's a big kind of iconic thing. These huge ears able to collect sound, maybe up to about a kilometer away. And they're able to use these ears in order to kind of locate sound, find it, and also understand what's happening in that area. This is particularly important when we're talking about when an elephant is trying to find out where something dangerous is. So, as I talked to you about before, elephants are coming into human fields to eat crops. Typically, they're doing this at night because they're trying to sneak in. And if they're moving in at night, they're not able to really see very well. So they're probably using some of their other senses in order to navigate. As we talked about before, they're using smell, but they're probably also using hearing in order to assess what the risk is in that area. People typically use kind of loud noises like firecrackers or gunshots in order to scare away elephants. So it makes sense that if people are it makes sense that if elephants are navigating by sound, they're kind of listening out for these loud noises or human noises and trying to avoid those. So one thing that we can do to kind of understand how an elephant is thinking or seeing the world around them is to kind of tap into that soundscape. So tap into what elephants are seeing or hearing around them. So one way we do this as researchers is we set up a group of both audio recorders and camera traps. So the audio recorders capture the human noise, we use the camera traps to capture elephant behavior. So before I showed you a couple of videos, those are from camera traps. Here we have an example of our audio recorder. It's the little green box on the side of the camera trap there. And we're using these to kind of create a soundscape to help us think about what the elephant's doing, where they are, and if elephants are kind of navigating and avoiding people. So a couple examples from these audio recorders. Here on the bottom left, you have a gunshot or a firecracker, most like a firecracker actually. And then we also, by using these audio recorders, we can also understand other aspects of the elephant's environment. So what other things are they hearing? So we can look at what other biodiversity, what other animals are in the area. So for instance, this is another example from our audio recorder of a peacock. So how can this really help us in understanding or helping us, how can this help us coexist or live with elephants as well? So one of the ways we can do this, if we understand the soundscape, we know what elephants like, what they avoid, and what they dislike. And we can tap into that to kind of help elephants out as well. Maybe if there's areas that we want elephants to go to, such as corridors between different national parks, which are safe corridors away from people, we can create those as quiet zones where we realize that if elephants like quiet areas and they're looking for food and they're trying to avoid the louder human noises, if we make sure that those corridor areas are quiet, elephants might be more likely to move through those areas. So how do we move kind of towards coexistence? So just kind of a little recap of what we've talked about so far. We've talked about human-elephant conflict and why it's important for Asian elephants because they live in large populated areas, and we need to find solutions because populations keep growing. We need to find solutions on how we can live with them. One way we can do this is by understanding elephants better, basically kind of thinking about how they think, and how they think helping us understand how we should think about them. We talked about two different senses, how smell, basically how they kind of find food. And then we also talked about hearing, basically how they avoid danger. Finally, we found that to coexist with other species, we have to understand them and figure out how we can relate to them, find similar values, find similar ways to compromise in the long run in order for us to both live in the same space. So lastly, I just have some quick homework for you guys, just as a fun activity. Sometime this week, if you get a chance, I want you to find a species. It doesn't have to be an elephant. Find any species kind of in your daily life. It can be a dog, a cat, a squirrel, a mouse, a bird, or a tiger. Take some time, watch them. Think about how they might see the world differently. What senses do they use? What do they like? What do they dislike? Think about what their perspective in the world looks like. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sateesh. And I can't encourage our classes to do that enough. We talk about animal senses and how they view the world a lot here at Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. Elephants are a particularly amazing example because they hear and think and see so differently. But really, like, think of a bat, think of an insect. It's a totally different perspective on planet Earth. My dog behind me, and think about how high she is. It's a totally different perspective on the planet than we have. And it's just a neat way of thinking about how linked and how different we are from our animal friends that share this planet with us. So what a great program. Lots of time for Q&A. So many kids joining us. So what we're going to do is begin with a little Kahoot. If you guys want to play along with a little 4-question quiz, we're going to do this. And what you win, if you're new to Kahoot, is Sateesh and I's everlasting respect. So we're going to play 4 questions. Sateesh, if you want to help us out with any of the answers as we get closer to the end, but if you want to pull up kahoot.it and that game pin, we can do that. Sateesh, I don't know if you can see us right now with your 2 screens set up, but if you can't, by all means, come out of your screen share and do that so we can have a bit of a conversation. We're going to get underway with this very, very shortly, and then we're going to head to Ms. Steinhoff's class for our first question when we do go live to our Q&A. But let's get into this in just a sec. and we'll dive in from there. I will say, too, we already have more questions in the chat than I can possibly take in one live broadcast. And so please do email me the extra ones at Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. I'll pass them to Sateesh. He'll spend all night. He's going to stay up all night answering all our questions. He promised. No. But please do get them to us. We are going to get underway with this. There's 50 of you already in. Sorry, my cold's coming through. Let's get underway and get to it. Here we go. All right. And sorry, for those who are new to this, the faster you answer, the more points you get. So question 1, multi-select. There's more than one right answer. At the beginning, we talked about this. What continents do elephants exist on? Europe, Africa, Asia, Australia. 2 of these are right. 2 of these are wrong. Sateesh, where are you at again? Let's tell us again. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge.
Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka. Yeah. Might be close to India, maybe in Asia. Yeah. We talked about the other one. All right, one more second. The answers, of course, are Africa and Asia. Wow, overwhelmingly, you guys are like, see, this doesn't usually happen for me and Coots, where like 95% of you get the right answer, so this is going to be interesting. Golden Emu has our lead. All right, question 2. About how many Asian elephants are left? Sateesh gave us a little bit of a range here. So is it 1 million? Is it 500,000? Is it 50,000? Or is it 5? Hopefully not ever 5. We don't want that to be the case. That would be very bad. And you mentioned that African elephants are closer to another one of these numbers. Let's see. Wow, there's 90 of you in the Kahoot. We haven't had 90 in a Kahoot in a long time. Oh, 100 maybe? Oh, 99. Yes, 50,000. So they are they critically endangered or just endangered? Not that
endangered, yeah.
Endangered right now. So I think most of our students will know that designation. We really have to do a lot of work to help protect them, and especially since they're by so many people. So Fearless Chicken takes our lead. Very noble name. One of the biggest challenges in human-elephant conflict is what? We talked about this. Is it elephants attacking pets, elephants eating crops, elephants flipping cars, or elephants eating people? That would be very rogue. They aren't doing that yet. That would be very distressing. Now, this is interesting because in big documentaries recently, they've started showing this on screen. I actually put a link to an amazing BBC series, Planet Earth 3, that has a human-elephant conflict. And yes, it is elephants eating crops. They sometimes want the same food that we do. Our food is delicious. And if you're a farmer and you've spent your whole year planting a field and an elephant comes through and eats it all in one day, that's a really, really big challenge to you, your family, your livelihood, and more. So I'm really glad you guys are on board with that. Eager Shark is a tie for a lead. We have a tie lead going to our final one. Now, we didn't cover all these, but I really like harping on them. Some ways to reduce elephant-human conflicts include what? Surrounding crop fields with beehives, providing funding to farmers whose crops are damaged. If your field is eaten, you pay that farmer the cost of that farm, providing corridors for elephants to cross roads safely, or hint, hint, nudge, nudge, all of the above. Now, he's shared a few extra ones as well. The answer is all of the above. We've actually covered all of these in past broadcasts. I really encourage you, for those of you, the 92 of you that did not pick beehives, Dominique, who Sateesh, you mentioned, talks about this. And elephants won't cross past beehives. They're very scared of bees. It is really interesting. And so there's some really innovative solutions out there. And I love that you guys put your thoughts in. Let's see what our leaderboard is. And then we're going live to Q&A. We got 20 minutes for Q&A. It's like an eternity. Satish is going to be so tired by the end of it. All right,
I love questions about elephants.
Yes, it's my favorite part too. Our winner, Hero Elephant. Okay, twice ever has the winner of the Kahoot had a name related to the animal we were talking about. Always makes my day. So thanks for that, guys. If you are Hero Elephant, let us know who you are in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. But we are going to head to Miss Steinhoff's class first for a question, and then Miss McInnes, we're coming to you. Don't worry, we're coming live to everybody. YouTubers, keep pouring them in. But come on in, Miss Steinhoff. Hey, guys, unmute your mic, and you're good to go. Hey. Almost there. There we are.
Do you think taking a safari trip is a good way to see elephants?
Great question.
Great question. Yeah, I actually think it's an amazing way to see elephants, especially to see wild elephants. I think seeing them in their natural habitat where they're able to move around freely, kind of have open areas and lots of food is really good. And by doing a safari, you're basically supporting them being in the forest, being in the field, savanna, wherever they are. So going on a safari is a great way to support elephants and encourage other people to go see them in the wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great answer. And this is something that I really like to harp on for kids. And it's a really thoughtful question because pretty much, unless you're doing something really exploitative to an animal, when you have safari set up, when you have ecotourism adventure set up, it means that that animal and that ecosystem are going to be valued in and of themselves. They're not valued because there are trees to cut down. They're not valued because we can hunt an animal. They're valued because people want to come see those animals in the wild, in a wild state. And that can really be huge for an economy. It can be huge for the animal. It can help bring animals back from the brink. So this is true of elephants, of gorillas, of any number of species. So great question, guys. And thanks, Sateesh. Miss McInnes's class. Wow, there's so many of you. Come on in, fourth graders, and take us away. Hey. Hi, guys.
All right. Say your name.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Maggie. What will happen to the elephants as the human population grows?
Great question.
Ooh, that's a good question. It's difficult to say, but that's why we're trying to look on ways that we can coexist with elephants, because it's difficult, especially in areas where there's a lot of people. This is happening in Africa as well as the human population is growing. Some of these routes that we kind of have created or elephants have between national parks or between protected areas are being cut off. So one of the things that we can do as kind of researchers or people that are really interested in helping elephants is making sure that we can kind of create passageways or safe spaces for elephants. And then one of the big things that we're working on as well is kind of awareness and working with local farmers to basically kind of encourage local farmers to understand how elephants think, as I talked about, kind of the elephant's perspective, and then finding ways that we can find mutual understanding between farmers and elephants, which is sometimes really challenging. But it's the only way that we're going to be able to find some sort of coexistence between the two.
Yep. These are some beautiful questions and answers to kick off our Q&A. Geez. And I really like to harp on this for kids because when I grew up, when I was in classrooms in Toronto growing up as a boy, I always thought of elephants as this amazing, unbelievable creature that existed in the wild. And they are. But imagine if you're in North America, if you're in Canada or the United States, and a moose comes into your living room and eats your fridge every day and rips up all your furniture. You would think very differently about that moose than someone from far away who goes, oh, it's a moose. It's so amazing. And so it's this different perspective that's so important to what your work is, Sateesh, and it's what we talked about a lot today. So I love the thoughtfulness here, guys. This is awesome. Okay, we're going to go to all our live classes. Miss Tian's class, I'm coming to you next. Miss Coburn right after that. Miss Eisler's class, you got your camera working. That's awesome. And then we'll take some from our YouTube groups. But Miss Tian, come on in and take us away. Hey, guys.
Do male elephants stay with female elephants?
Ooh.
What was the question again?
Do male elephants stay with female elephants?
Ooh,
That's a good question.
Yeah.
So with elephants, this is both in Africa and in Asia, but typically the male elephants will leave the female group when they're about maybe about 12 to 15 years old. It kind of varies a little bit. But usually at that point, male elephants will leave the female group, usually where they grew up with their mothers and maybe their siblings, and they'll kind of move off on their own. With Asian elephants, quite often they'll form little male herds. So sometimes you'll get a bunch of herds of like male teenage elephants. But once they get older, they kind of hang out on their own. And especially in Asia, they'll kind of come in and out of different female groups. So sometimes they'll be associated with a female group, which means they just hang out with them a lot. But then other times they'll take off on their own, spend a little bit of alone time, and travel around maybe with other female groups.
How cool is that? I did not know that about the groups of young males going out together in Asian elephants. That's super, super neat. Oh, wicked. Miss Coburn, come on in from your virtual school. If you want to flick on the mic of your students, you are good to go for a question.
Hey, Sateesh, thank you so much for this. Just so you know, we have some special needs students here, and your visuals were amazing.
Excellent, good.
You really did engage our students. We have a student here, Alexis, is going to put her. We're a remote class, so Alexis is going to put her mic on and ask you a question.
Sweet. Hey, Alexis. Wants to work.
So I was wondering, is there any certain kinds of elephants that can withstand colder temperatures?
Awesome. Miss Coburn, could you repeat that for us? We heard it just a little tiny bit, but just for our
Absolutely. So
audience.
Alexis is asking, are there certain elephants that can withstand colder temperatures?
Cool.
Well, that's a good question. Most of the elephants do live in kind of warmer climates, but there are some elephants that live, I guess the coldest climates they would sort of live in would be closer to the Himalayas, northern India, would probably be some of the colder climates they live in. But they also, some of the desert areas in Africa as well can be quite cold at night. So they do tend to stay in more warmer areas. But they do have some flexibility as well in terms of climate.
Thank you so much for mentioning the desert cold at night thing. It's such a hard thing to reinforce with people. Even adults don't know this, but like deserts can go from like plus 40 Celsius to minus 40 Celsius at night. Certainly in Asia they can, in the Gobi Desert. For our American friends, it's like 100 plus Fahrenheit to minus 40 at night, which is crazy. So I love when we get to talk about that a little bit.
And actually, just to add in more with that too, with Asian elephants especially, you'll see the baby Asian elephants. So babies can always be a little bit more sensitive to temperatures and stuff like that. So when it's too hot, they'll hide under their mothers. But you'll see a lot of Asian elephants that are babies. They'll have a lot of hair, and that's also to kind of keep them a little bit more warm. Yeah,
we saw that in that first picture of you with an elephant, which I've got to say is one of my very favorite animal person pictures I've ever seen in my life. Like, that's just a glorious shot of you. So nice. All right, Philly, we're going to come to you guys, and then we're going to do a whole other round of questions after some YouTubers. Come on in and take us away, guys. Hey, unmute your mic. Hello.
Oh! Okay, Sanzana. Let me get my camera on her. Sorry, we're new at this. Okay, go ahead.
How much is an elephant weight for a person to move?
Ooh.
Come closer.
Oh, no, we caught that. Sateesh, how long does an elephant wait for a person to move? So if people are in the way, what's the deal?
Oh, that's a good question. I think overall, elephants try and avoid people. It depends a little bit. When they're inside of the national park, kind of in their homeland, where they know they're safe, elephants will kind of hang around people and spend a little bit more time with them. They know they're kind of protected and safe there. But when they're outside of national parks, they get a little bit more skittish and they'll tend to run away more. So typically, usually they don't wait for people to move. They either will move them or they'll run away.
Thus the conflict. Great question, guys. All right, Mrs. Wentworth's class, they're also in Maine. I think we have most of Maine here today. Maybe Stephen King's hanging out too. We don't know yet. They want to know, how tough is their skin? Sort of one of the iconic elephant things.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Their skin is very tough. So it's very thick and it is able to resist a lot of like abrasion. So you'll see often that like elephants will rub up against trees, maybe to get off insects or to just kind of clean off their body. And usually when they do that, they'll actually take off a lot of the bark of the tree and they'll kind of like carve out the tree sort of a little bit. And their skin, just there's a couple of places where their skin is a little bit thinner. So like kind of behind their ears, maybe around their eyes as well. Their skin is a little bit thinner, so they're a little bit more sensitive in those areas.
I love the tree reference, because don't try this at home, kids. If you rub your skin into the tree, your skin will give way before the bark does. But when you're an elephant, you actually, this is true all over the world. Wherever there are elephants, there are clear elephant trails through things like forests, certainly in West Africa, in Asia. And it's a path that they've come where all the wildlife has been trampled or scraped. And it's very clear that other animals even follow those elephant trails because they're so defined. That skin's mighty hardy. So great question, guys. All right, Miss Riddle's class. Okay, this is a tough one. How many elephants have you seen, Sateesh?
Oh, that is a good question. I've worked, so far I've worked in 4 of the main countries that elephants exist in Asia. So I've worked in Thailand for a while, India, Myanmar, and now in Sri Lanka. So I've seen quite a lot of elephants here. And then I've also worked in Africa as well a little bit, and I've seen quite a lot of elephants there as well. So I would say probably maybe 300-400.
Wow, that's quite incredible. I again, when you go on like one tour, you're very lucky if you see like 5 elephants. So Sateesh has made a very, very cool living of this. A nice follow-up exactly on that. Before we head back to Miss Steinoff, we're going to do a whole other round with our live classes. Is there a place that you haven't been that you'd most like to work with elephants yet?
Oh, that's a good question. I'd really like to go to Mozambique and see some elephants, or maybe Namibia and see some of the desert elephants.
Ooh, you picked the 2 that are top of my list too. So Mozambique, we've done some amazing programs with Dominique, who you mentioned earlier. I really encourage you check out our YouTube channel. And Namibia, we've never talked about them, but it's such a special group of animals in general in Namibia. It's a very, very unique place on this planet. So cool answer, man. All right, Miss Steinoff, we're back to you. Come on in and take us away. Hey guys.
Do you have sanctuaries to help injured animals?
Ooh, that's a good question. Yeah, we do have sanctuaries to help injured animals. There's actually Thailand has an elephant hospital. Most of the like treatment that we do in Sri Lanka with elephants, like injured elephants, maybe if they've gotten an injury from poachers or gunshots or something like that. A lot of the vets actually will come to the elephants. So if they find an injured elephant, they'll come out and treat the elephant where they are, usually kind of near the national park or something like that. Sometimes even like injured elephants have been known to kind of go to the same location because they know that that's kind of where they got treated last time and they'll return there.
So cool. Isn't that like those sort of things? I mean, you're used to them because you work with us all the time, but like, I still think that's like childlike wonder level stuff that they go there, and they're not unique in that. There are other animals that will go and seek out medical care in the same sort of places, but so special. What a great, thoughtful question, guys. That's awesome. Mrs. McInnes's class, coming back to you, grade 4s. Come on up and take us away. Hey, guys. Hi. Hi.
Hi, my name is Hazel, and how will kids in Sri Lanka helping the elephants and people coexist?
Oh, that's a very good question. Yeah, so mostly here, people are learning more about elephants. So there's a lot of Sri Lankan researchers that are going out and teaching people about elephants. We're doing that as well. My field team that I work with is all Sri Lankan, so they're all out there learning about elephants, teaching other people about elephants. We also go to a bunch of schools here and talk about elephants sometimes. But basically, they're doing that, and then also like the more appreciation and understanding local students or children here have for elephants, when they grow up and they think about how to protect and save elephants, they can make they can make larger policy, governmental changes and laws to protect elephants.
Yep. It all starts with programs like this. Like the more you learn, the more you share with your family and friends, that actually does do a big thing for helping wildlife like elephants. So I absolutely love that question. Thank you so much, Ms. McInnes's class. All right, we're going to mix up the order a little bit. We got 4 more questions coming. I'm going to take our YouTube one first. Then Philly, we're going to you, Ms. Coburn, and we're going to wrap up with Ms. Tian's class. Ms. Wetmore's class, they're joining us in... Where are they joining? Oh, Yarmouth, Maine. Everyone's in Maine. I told you, Maine is very popular today. What are their predators? I love this question for elephants.
Oh, that's a good question. So in Sri Lanka, there's not many predators for elephants. So in India, you have tigers that will kind of be predators to maybe younger elephants or baby elephants. But Sri Lanka, we don't have any tigers. So there's nothing that's really big enough to kind of attack elephants on a large size like that. It's very different from Africa, where there's lots of really big, larger predators. But in the rest of Asia, where there are tigers or some larger predators, that can be a problem for smaller baby elephants. But once they get really big and they're kind of strong and healthy, there's not many predators for elephants. The biggest threat is usually from people.
And this is true of pretty much every animal in the world, but I'm going to do a special shout out to an amazing scene in Planet Earth 1, which is lions hunting an adult elephant in East Africa, which is one of the greatest scenes ever filmed ever. And I put it in the YouTube chat, so if you want to check that out. I know we're Team Elephant today, but also it is pretty amazing, I've got to say. Philly, we're going to head back to you. Come on up and unmute your mic. Take us away. Miss Coburn, we're coming next.
So,
What? There you go.
so do elephants really flip over cars?
Ooh, good question. Yes, they do. Elephants are super strong, and they can definitely flip over cars. Some of the times we've been in the national park, sometimes they'll chase us, or they'll potentially try and attack our vehicle. So we do have to be really careful with that. And that's also something as well, when elephants leave the national park, people have to be really careful about them. They cross roads quite often, and they can flip over cars and cause injuries to people. So you definitely have to be very careful when you're near elephants to stay far enough away.
Two quick
And they're
follow-ups.
very fast.
Yeah, it's a great question. And my two quick follow-ups are to say that's the greatest sweater-shirt combo from a grade 1 student we've ever had in our history. So thank you for that, being very stylish. And two, having been in East Africa and being in a large, powerful Jeep, when an elephant charges you and flares its ears, you feel very small in that Jeep. Doesn't matter how big your vehicle is, that elephant could make very quick work of it. So it's a danger, and it's a danger being in the field. And again, it underscores the need to understand how to think like an elephant, how to respect them, so you're not putting yourself or your friends in that situation, or the elephant for that matter. That's a really, really good question. Miss Coburn, we're coming to you. Miss Tiem, we're going to wrap up in a second. And I want to note, if you have extra questions, please do email them to us at Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. We will pass them to Sateesh. And this has just been one of the best Q&As I've had in a very long time. You guys are an amazing audience today. Come on in Hamilton. Hey.
Hey, we're here. So as we are communicating and through remote, and I just love to see the kids asking questions, right? Sateesh is brilliant. Nawal actually has a communication question for you. So Nawal is going to put her mic on and ask the question.
Sweet.
How do elephants communicate to each other?
How do they communicate to each other? Perfect.
Great question. They've got actually lots of different ways that they can communicate to each other. So obviously one of the main ways is by vocalizing, so talking sort of in their own language. So they have tons of different sounds that they make, rumbles, roars, squeaks. Squeaks are actually kind of more uniquely Asian elephant sounds, so you don't usually hear it with African elephants. They make kind of this loud squeak noise that you just would never expect to come out of such a large animal. But also they have other ways of communicating. So they have a lot of body postures that kind of tell you what they're thinking. As we said, if they've got their ears out, that's kind of a warning. And they can also communicate by smell. So they'll leave urine and dung, different smells, and that leaves signs for other elephants to let them know kind of what's happening with those elephants and what's going on.
Super cool. And you talked about infrasound earlier. So sound that is below the level of our hearing that we might experience as like a rumble, or that feeling when your chest vibrates. Elephants can talk in that. And that's really, really neat to warn each other, to communicate with one another across long distances. It's one of my very favorite things in all of nature. And again, it underscores that if you think about how other animals perceive the world, it's often quite different from us. And it's one of my very favorite things in biology. Please, sorry.
And just to plug some new research that just came out as well, they just found out with some African elephants that elephants actually have kind of unique names for each other. So they kind of, when they're communicating, that they'll actually have kind of unique patterns that they'll communicate to certain individuals with. Hey,
Phil, Steve, what do you want? There you go. I love that in animals. Some whales have that too. It's not a very common thing in the animal kingdom, but the more we research it, the more we find it. It's so, so neat. Okay. One more question, then we'll wrap up from there. Stick around, classes. Miss Tian's class, you can wrap us up. Thank you so much, everybody. Hey, guys.
Hi, my name's Althea, and I was wondering how often elephants have babies.
Hey, thanks, Althea.
Ooh, that's a really good question. So elephants have one of the longest gestation periods. So one of the longest times that basically the baby is inside the mother. So they have, they'll hold the baby, or they'll gestate the baby for about 22 months. So that's almost 2 years. And then that baby is going to be dependent on milk from the mother for the next 2 years or so. So typically they'll have babies maybe every 4 to 5 years. But depending on how healthy and how much food is around, that can be a little bit longer sometimes too.
Fascinating. The gestation period always gets me, but even the fact that they care for their young that long, like people, we're really biased because we think this is normal, but we have the longest period of a baby or a child being reliant on its parents, and elephants are quite long in the animal kingdom. So I love when we get this question. Sateesh, I know we could go all day. We actually have more questions to go literally all day if we wanted to, but we'll wrap up there. Is there any final message you want to leave us with before we bring in our classes to say a big thank you and farewell?
No, just thank you. You have such great questions. And I think the main thing is just kind of keep thinking about how animals and different species think, and how we can kind of better understand them.
Yep. No better message than that. Go out, explore. iNaturalist and Seek are tools that I particularly use myself to go explore my natural world around me. It's so much fun. We'll pass that along to all you teachers. And so what we're going to do to wrap up the broadcast, I'm going to bring in all our classes to say a big thank you and farewell. Sateesh, do stick around at the end of that for you and I to chat for a minute. But Miss Steinhoff, Miss McInnes, Miss Coburn, Miss Tian, Miss Taylor,